Hello, I'm Lake County Board Member Dick Barr, representing the 3rd District of Lake County, which includes Lindenhurst, Lake Villa, Round Lake Beach, Round Lake Heights, and small portions of Ingleside and Antioch. Today is Saturday, September 7th, and if you give me just a few minutes, I'm going to show you how we on County Board can lower the county portion of your property tax bill for the first time in decades. And I'm going to show you why we should. And I'm going to do it with a pie. Stick around. Welcome back. Again, I'm Lake County Board Member Dick Barr. Today I want to talk to you about the county's property tax levy. The levy is, as I've discussed in previous videos, the portion of our budget that we collect from the property taxpayers. And let's get straight into the pie. So, here's our pie. I've chosen a patriotic pie because America. So, why is a pie the best way to explain this? This pie represents the entirety of the amount of money that we collect in property taxes to fund our programs. What we do is we don't decide who pays what in property taxes. All we do is we tell the assessors what the total of the pie is. So we tell the assessors how much money we need to operate, and then it's their job to divide that pie amongst all the property tax payers. So the property tax that you pay is directly proportional to the value of your property. Higher values will get larger portions of the pie, and smaller values get smaller portions of the pie. There's a few different ways, actually there's two. There's two different ways that taxing body can increase the amount of money that it collects from you, the property taxpayer. The state legislature says that the first way you can collect more money from the taxpayers is by increasing your levy. And they restrict that to an increase to the total levy of no more than the lower of 5% or CPI. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index, basically inflation. So in a high CPI year, where let's say the CPI was 10%, the taxing body could not raise their levy more than 5% because it's the lower of 5% or CPI. But for the past many years, CPI has been hovering right around the 2% range. Currently, I believe 2019 or 2020, it's predicted to be about 1.8 or 1.9%. So for the purposes of easy discussion, we'll just refer to it as a 2% CPI index. So this is what happens when a taxing body increases their levy by 2%. CPI. What they do is they take their levy. Let's say their levy is $100,000. Well, next year it's going to go up by 2%, so that'll be $102,000, and so on and so forth. As you go up, then it's $104,000, and of course this compounds in $106,000, $108,000. So year after year, that number keeps going up. Larger pie, and your portion of that grows as well. So as that pie gets larger, your section of that pie grows with it. So therefore, you have ever increasing property taxes. The second way a taxing body can collect new tax revenue. Oh, actually, let's hit this first. So this is what it looks like. So this is a graph that shows the Lake County's property tax levy going back 20 years, all the way back to 2000. The blue sections of the graph is the existing tax base, the property tax levy sent to the existing tax base. The small red portions above the blue parts of the graph is the CPI growth. That's the amount of money that the county board at the time voted to increase the tax to the existing taxpayers. The green portion is the new development portion of the property tax bill. The new development is anything that's a new tax revenue source this year that wasn't a tax revenue source last year. So as you can see, back in 2000, the property tax levy was just over $80 million for Lake County government. And over the past 20 years, through CPI increases and new development, that number has grown to double. So about we're just over 160 million. I believe in 2019 we budgeted a tax levy of 162 million, twice as much as it was 20 years ago. So an average increase of about 5% per year. So the second way that a taxing body can increase its property tax revenue is using new development. And that was the green portion of the graph that you saw in the previous slide. How this works is new development typically gets added on top of the existing tax base. So taxing bodies will use new development to not reduce the amount of taxes you pay. What they do is they use it to increase the amount of revenue it gets. And as you saw in the previous graph, that number never went down. It just goes up and up and up and up. So a new growth levy gets added to this year's and then becomes part of the existing tax base in next year's. So just a constant increase. So you can think of it instead of taking or occupying a portion of the pie, what it's doing is taking the existing pie and just throwing whipped cream on top. The whipped cream being the new development. The problem is that since 2000, we've seen new development, or at least new development tax revenue, drop dramatically. In 2000, we had revenue from new development over $6 million. And as you can see in the graph, it just keeps dropping and dropping. And in 2020, it's predicted for revenue stream from new development property tax revenue to be just over $600,000, or exactly $605,000. So we can no longer rely on increasing services or increased spending as a result of new development, because that revenue source is going away. Our populations are declining. We have businesses moving out. We don't have a lot of new development that is bringing in new tax revenue. So we have to start being creative or looking at ways that we can help the property taxpayer. So at Friday's Committee of the Whole, the Finance Committee presented their recommendations for the 2020 levy. This is something that we vote on before we actually work on the budget. So this just becomes a skeleton for how we handle the budget when we get to that point, which is over the next few months. So what they recommended was freezing the levy for existing tax base, so not increasing the levy for existing property taxpayers, which is good because that means your county or the county portion of the levy will not increase for current payers. But they've elected to recommend an increasing the total levy using the $605,000 of projected new development tax revenue. So in this graph, their recommendation, what they propose, is an increase from just over 162 million to about 162,650,000, or in that range. So what I'm proposing is, and the reason is 2 years ago, over the past 2 years, when asked, I told people that we need to spur economic development. We need to generate new business opportunities in the county so we can help shoulder the burden of the property taxpayers. The problem is that at least for the past 20 years, and probably longer, but my data only goes back 20 years, for the past 20 years, we've never used new development to help shoulder the burden of property taxes to our existing tax base. So what my recommendation is, and I'm hoping I can get other board members to agree with me, is instead of increasing our levy, is to use the new development revenue stream to actually reduce the existing taxpayer portion of the property tax levy. Does that make sense? So instead of increasing our levy by the $605,000, it's keep the levy the same and reducing the existing tax base portion of it. So what we're asking for, what I'm asking for, is a modest $605,000 out of a budget of $525 million. I'm not talking about major cuts. I'm not talking about scouring through the budget and finding millions of dollars in savings. I'm not saying we can't do that, but to make my proposal palatable, I'm just asking for $605,000 to be the first time in at least 2 decades that a county board voted to reduce the existing tax base portion of the property tax levy. This represents only 0.1% of the total budget, $605,000. Now, I won't get into now, we'll get into at a future time. Lake County is already aware of more revenue we'll be receiving from the state, revenue that we can use in transportation, and then revenue that we have not yet decided what we'll do with or what departments we'll put it into. But we have an opportunity to reduce our levy by $605,000, which is only 0.1% of the entire budget, and show by example that we can be a taxing body that actually will lower the property tax base for the first time in 2 decades. So I'm asking you to please support my no growth 2020 property tax levy amendment. I'll be making the amendment on the floor of the board at Tuesday morning's board meeting at 9 o'clock in Waukegan on the 10th floor. I'm asking you to please share this video if you agree with me that we have to start taking steps to reduce the property tax burden of our residents and businesses in Lake County. And please share this video. Share this with your friends and family. Share this in any community groups you belong to on Facebook, and send it out in an email to everyone. It's important. And if the people you share it with aren't in my district, ask them to contact their county board member and tell them that they support my no growth for 2020 property tax levy amendment. If you want to find out who your county board member is, I made it easy for you to find. If you go to my website, which is www.dickbarrlakecounty.com, that's www.dickbarrlakecounty.com. And if you hover over the home menu, click Find Your County Board Member. And that will take you to the page with a list of all the county board members, all 21. And call your county board member or email them and tell them that you support the no growth for the 2020 property tax levy amendment. Here's a map right here. If you click on the map, you can see which district number you're in. And if you know what district number you're in, just go down here along the left and choose whatever district you have. Click on the person, their phone number and email address is there. Now, if you don't want to do that, or you can't make out exactly where you live on the map, just click this link here where it says if you would like to find your county board member or district by your address, click here, and that'll take you to Lake County's GIS program where you can search by your property address and it'll tell you what district you live in. So I'm going to finish with my contact info. Of course, you can contact me on the web at www.dickbarrlakecounty.com. You can follow me on Twitter at DickBarrLCBoard. Facebook, which is the best way to reach me, at Dick Barr Lake County. Again, that's at Dick Barr Lake County. Or you can email me at dbar@lakecountyil.gov. And of course, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, text Lake Barr followed by your email address to 468-311. Again, that's text Lake Barr followed by your email address to 468-311. I want to thank you again very much, and I hope you found this information informative. I hope you agree with me, and I hope you'll share this with everyone in your contact base as well as on your Facebook. Thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great day.